Hi guys, welcome to class. We're going to continue with the topic of education, but it's going to be a reading-based class. I'm going to correct your pronunciation, your intonation a little bit, but we're really going to discuss the content, okay? Because they're saying the UK is falling behind in terms of education on a world level. There are better universities, better education systems maybe in Asia that we're not being able to compete with. And the government now are wanting to change the education system in the UK to compete with other countries, yeah, so their systems. We're going to talk about this, if you've heard about the education system maybe in the UK, and also we're going to continue talking and finding out your opinions on this. Okay, so Donato, how are you? You okay? Yeah? You're okay? Okay, we'll just wait for it to load. When you can hear, just shout out, okay? Donato?
Sì.
Yeah, we can hear you. Cool, now we can hear you. Perfect. Good to speak with you again. And Vlad, are you there?
Yes.
Cool, good to speak with you again. Okay, so I've sent you the article, and I've got it on my screen here. So we're going to have a look through this, and we're going to discuss, again, what it's talking about and try to understand language, learn new words, and also I'll correct your pronunciation, yeah? So we're going to multitask, we're going to do lots of things in this session, so hopefully it's useful to you. Vlad, could you make a start with the first paragraph?
Just a moment.
Me? Okay, Vlad.
It's very small text for me.
I'll send it to you again, just in case you didn't catch it. Oh, sorry, I didn't send it to you at all. I thought I did. Sorry, there we go. It's in the verbing chat box, but also for other people, I'll put it in the Google chat.
Oh, I download. Oh, it's okay. Now it's okay. I download it.
Okay. No worries. Please, could you read the first two paragraphs, maybe the first two paragraphs?
Okay. 5-year-olds will start tackling fractions and computer algorithms as a more strengthened national curriculum is announced for state schools in England. The government says the curriculum changes are designed to catch up with the world's best education systems.
Okay, that's enough for now. There are probably a couple of new words and things like this. First of all, do you know what a curriculum is? A curriculum.
I don't remember this word, but I know exactly that I learned it. But now I cannot remember it.
So you've heard it before, but maybe it's not off the top of your head. Yeah, you can't think of it. But Alberto is there. You there?
I remember like curriculum vitae.
Yeah, curriculum vitae is like this Latin. We say CV is basically a plan of your life, right? So you can see your education, your work history, things like this. But a curriculum is just this. It's like a plan. But curriculum in an educational sense is just talking about what the school needs to teach you. So the government say, right, we want all our 5-year-olds to be able to do this when they're 5 years old. That's the national curriculum. The teachers must follow this and teach the children to do this when they're this age. Or when they're 16, they should be able to know how to cook pasta, right? Yes, they would decide this. And they'll pass this on to the school, and this is the national curriculum. Okay, so Alberto, are you there? Can you hear?
Hi teacher.
Good to speak with you, Alberto.
Thank you.
So we're reading a text about some changes to the UK education system, and we're talking about some new words and things like this. So just stay tuned, and hopefully it should be useful for you. Selma, are you there?
Yes, teacher, I'm here.
Cool. Okay, and do you know what this means? stretching. So as a more stretching national curriculum is announced. A stretching.
I know this. I know stretching like gathering. I know the stretches that we put that people get when they got injured. I don't know stretching.
Oh yeah. So this is if you have a stretch, for example, if you like taking part in sport, you could stretch your muscles. But stretching, does anyone know, Vlad, can you understand the meaning from this? A more stretching national curriculum.
It's maybe it's the same. Like you have to stretch your muscles, and you have to stretch your education. Maybe I mean curriculum plans for education.
Yeah. So to make it more difficult, they say maybe it's too easy.
Yes. Yeah.
Stretching more difficult, so it puts more pressure on students. Okay. So it's more stretching. It puts more pressure on the students. And some examples they're saying is for 5-year-olds. Wait, what did it say? 5-year-olds will start tackling fractions and computer algorithms. So they're already doing maybe arguably difficult stuff from 5 years old. They want to challenge the children so that British students can compete with really vigorous education systems like in Asia. I've heard the Korean education system, the Chinese education system puts a lot of pressure on the students, and these students are therefore getting high jobs. Yeah, in London, for example, lots of the people in the banks and stuff are Chinese or Indian. Yeah, so trying to maybe compete with more rigid education systems in the world. So to tackle something, do you know what this means?
It's like instrument.
To face.
To face, yeah, perfect, Donato. Yeah, to face something, to deal with.
To deal with.
Yeah, so they will have to start tackling with it. They will face fractions. They're going to face computer algorithms, all this stuff from 5 years old, and it's going to. The aim is to stretch them, to put more pressure on them, so they do better. Okay, so any more words or any questions about the first couple of paragraphs, or any comments, any opinions?
I didn't understand.
No, right.
The meaning of stretching.
Stretching.
National curriculum.
No worries.
Because I know the meaning like lengthen, no?
To lengthen, but to kind of make it go like this, yeah. To stretch it, but yeah, put more pressure on it. So to stretch them. So they do more difficult things, not things that are maybe too easy. So they are pushed. There's pressure on them. Okay. But guys, what do you think about this? To put pressure on a 5-year-old? Yeah, I would say I'm quite satisfied with how it was when I was 5. Yeah, we played games and stuff. I couldn't imagine doing stuff like, learning about computers and stuff like that at 5.
Martin,
yeah.
What's the meaning of the first 3 lines? Like 5 years old, we start tackling fraction. What does it mean in the end, these 3 lines?
I'll translate. Okay, so what's happening is the government are saying education is too easy in the UK. We're going to make it more difficult for for people in the UK to study. So school children, like 5 years old, would have to do more complicated stuff than before. And they're devising now a new curriculum, which is a plan of the education, to make it more difficult, maybe for students to pass exams and to study, just to make it more, just to put more pressure, okay? To be able to compete with maybe better educational systems, yeah. So in other countries. And what's your opinion about this? Do you think 5-year-olds should be put under more pressure, or put under a lot of pressure? She's gone. Vlad, what do you think about this?
It depends if the family and the school like are very close to the students, the pupils, because you can give more difficult things to study, but if the student um, doesn't learn, doesn't study, I don't know
Yeah,
where is the
makes
use.
sense.
For
Yeah, so
example, for example, I have my nephews now
yeah.
that learning easy things, and they think that they are difficult, and they don't want to do anything. Can you imagine if yeah, maybe the like the thought of this of the government, it would be to uh, to constrict them to make an effort more, no?
Yeah, because the thing
Probably.
is, it's true that if students are motivated, if kids are really interested in the subject, they're going to be interested anyway, yeah? So they're going to do things like maybe read books on that or play with chemistry sets or whatever. So they can do it themselves. Most students at 5 years old are just interested in playing around and not studying, right? So I don't know. But yeah, what would you say, Anne? Is the education system in your country too easy for 5-year-olds? Are they even having this discussion, this debate?
As for 5 years old children, we have no educational system for them. They go to kindergartner, and
Kindergarten, yeah.
our children go to school at 6 or no, yeah, now at 6 years old. At 6 years, but I think our school program I don't remember this new word. Curriculum. I think our curriculum isn't easy for children, and I think that our government should focus to another problem in education system. For example, the lesson which relating to sport activity.
Yeah.
We have no sport activity at all.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So you think it's better to develop them in other ways, not just about the mathematical ability or their
or chemistry.
Okay, so not too much theoretical stuff, more practical stuff as well. Okay, so the thing is that I don't know, but you're saying in Ukraine people start school at 6 years old. I started when I was 4. Yes, I'd have liked to have the extra 2 years. Okay, that's interesting. Can I just ask a quick question? What's it like in your countries? When do you start school? Alberto.
About the age, about or in general.
Yeah. What age do you start school?
At 6. Well, in Spain, it starts at 6. The serious education. You could go to school since 3 years old, but between 3 and 6 is not regular. It's not serious.
Yeah, that's probably like us. We start when legally you have to start school when you're 5 on your 5th birthday, but of course the term starts in September. I was born in December, so my parents decided to send me when I was to start the school year rather than to start on my birthday. Yeah, you have to go to school by your birthday, your 5th birthday, but of course you can start in the September before your birthday. So I was technically 4, but almost 5, right? But and we call it year R, which is reception year, and that's just where we just play with toys. Yeah, so playing mummies and daddies and start looking at each other's lunch boxes for the first time and getting jealous, and then we start maybe year 1. We call it year 1 when in the year after, so 5 to 6. So it's probably actually similar. We just call it different. Okay, Selma, what about in your country?
Well, here kids start at the age of 6 years.
6, so it's the same, right? Everywhere. Vlad? Oh, you'd agree, yeah? So, but could you say the point of view from the Soviet times? You went to school in the Soviet times. Was it the same? So Anne said she started when she was 6. Was it comparable, Vlad? All right, we'll come back. Okay, so let's go on with this. But any more questions about this so far, or should we go on? I think let's go on. Yeah, go on. Okay, so who would like to read the next 3 paragraphs?
Hi.
Yes, please, Donato.
Okay. The government says the curriculum
just from Prime Minister, sorry.
change.
Just from Prime Minister.
Okay, Prime Minister David Cameron says this revolution in education is vital for the country's economic prosperity. Labour said the curriculum should be written by experts and not depend on ministers' personal prejudices. Teachers' unions have warned that the timetable for implementing the changes in autumn 2014 is completely unrealistic.
Yeah. Okay. So the Prime Minister David Cameron, who's like, in the UK we don't have a president, we just have this Prime Minister. So we have the Queen, who has no political influence, and then the Prime Minister. So he's saying basically what's happening is that for the UK to be able to compete and not to fall behind, which is happening, and to get ahead, it needs to change the way it educates the children so they think differently, so they are more maybe intelligent or whatever. I don't know. For the country's economic prosperity, what does this mean, prosperity?
Development.
Welfare.
Development, welfare, but to do with money. So economic prosperity is wealth, so that students in the future can get jobs, can get salaries. There needs to be a change in the education system, right? So that's what they're saying. Okay, yeah. So any questions, specific questions from these 3 paragraphs? And in a minute we're going to listen to this idiot. Sorry, I shouldn't say any opinions, but he's the education minister, but he's not very nice. He's there. So we're going to listen and see if you understand his accent as well, to see what he's saying. But he's not very popular. Okay, as all politicians are. But any questions from these 3 paragraphs about words or expressions or content?
Personal prejudices.
Yeah, prejudice.
Prejudice.
So prejudice.
Prejudice.
What is it, Anne? A prejudice, to have a prejudice over someone.
No idea. I don't know what.
Okay, so prejudice, for example, you could prejudice someone over their religion. You could say, oh, what do you know, you are or their race, or their educational background, or the amount of money they have. These are things where you say, oh, you are this, so therefore you are that. Okay, so it could be about, even for example in the UK there's prejudice about which city you come from, right? So if you come from the north, or which region, people in the south would say, oh, what do you know, you're northern. Or people from the north would say, oh, what do you know, you're southern. Yeah, this is prejudice. But it's usually about things like your race, where you come from, your maybe family's background, and things like this. And there's a prejudice in the UK maybe about the difference between state education and private education, because a lot of the ministers went to private schools. So they're saying, yeah, so private schools are better, or whatever. Maybe they have prejudice over the state system. Is
it like stereotypes?
Yeah, developing stereotypes about someone, yeah? So, yeah, exactly that. Okay, so Labour said the curriculum should be written by experts and not depend on ministers' personal prejudices. They're saying that, oh, maybe the ministers think that the education system is bad in the UK because they're just saying, well, compared with China, the British students are not studying 16 hours a day, right? So they're saying, let's not prejudice, let's not compare exactly how it is, okay? So and it should be analysed and not just people saying, oh well, of course our system is not so bad, not so good. Okay, so teachers' unions have warned that the timetable for implementing the changes. Do you know what this means? To implement something.
Yeah. To adding.
Yeah. To
apply.
Yes, please, Alberto.
To
apply.
Improve.
Yeah, so to implement, to introduce, kind of like to introduce. Okay, so that's
it is not. It is not to improve.
In this context, 1 second. For implementing, yeah. So the changes is something new that they need to introduce. So although there is of course a curriculum before, the changes are new, so they are being implemented. So you implement something that's new, you introduce it. Okay, that's the closest probably synonym is to introduce. So the government is saying, right, we from September 2014, the education system will change completely, and the unions of teachers are saying this is stupid. There's not enough time to change everything. You have to retrain teachers. You have to. There's lots of things you have to do. So they're saying it's not so realistic. Okay, now we're going to have a break from reading. We're going to listen to this man. I haven't listened to this interview yet, so I'm just going to play it. Hopefully you can hear it through my speakers. Okay, so 1 second, and we'll see what he says. Try and see if you understand him, because his accent. Oh, I don't like him at all. But listen.
I'd like to make sure that children in.
Guys, was that loud enough? Could you hear? Should I play it again?
Yeah.
Our schools are learning the things which are being taught in other countries. I also want to make sure that the children in our schools are being stretched just as much as children in other countries are, so that when they enter the world of work or when they apply to universities, they're as well equipped as any child in the world in order to succeed.
Now, you came out with some proposals which were criticised pretty heavily in quite a lot of areas, including by Simon Sharma, the historian, who said that he found the curriculum insulting and offensive and written by people who've never sat and taught 12-year-olds in a classroom. Have you changed your views on the history curriculum?
Yes. One of the things that Simon Sharma asked for right at the very beginning of this, and something that I've been passionate about, is giving people an understanding of British history, the broad sweep of how we came to be the nation that we are. But one of the points that Simon and a number of other folk made is that as well as stressing the importance of British history, we also needed to balance that out by making sure that there was plenty of room and scope for world and European history as well. And so we've listened and we've changed that. We've also changed the design and technology curriculum from the draft that we put out a few months ago, in order to put more emphasis on things like 3D printing, robotics, and some of the cutting-edge ways in which designers create fantastic new products. But it's also the case that the bulk of what we published in February is there. There's been a shaving here and a nip and tuck there. But essentially, the greater emphasis, as you mentioned earlier, on children being secure in mathematical knowledge at an earlier stage, fractions at 5, multiplication tables secure by the time they're 9 or 10.
Sorry, 12 times table? Do we really need the 12 times table? We live in a world where there are no pounds, shillings and pence anymore.
I think it's absolutely right that children should be learning and become fluent in mathematical processes, including the 12 times table. And there are any number of mathematical sequences which require you not just to understand decimal notation, but also different ways of having that instant recall, which learning the 12 times table, learning all of these tables at an earlier age than you currently do, is going to help. And most of the critics of the curriculum tend to be folk who say, don't be so ambitious. And I worry that in their desire to sort of choke off the level of ambition that we're putting forward, that they're selling our children short. But it's also important to recognise that what makes teaching engaging is the quality and skill of the teacher. We've got the best generation of young teachers in our classrooms, and I think that they're more than equal to the challenge of teaching as well, if not better, than teachers in any other country.
Okay, so they spoke very quickly. I'd say it's pretty a normal pace. I just want to ask you now is if that was understandable for you, what percentage of that you understood? Okay, so just ask you because it was quite quick, but that's probably quite a natural pace of British English, right? So we'll see if it's okay. Anne, what percentage would you say you understood?
Honestly saying, I have a big problem with listening at all, and he speaks too quickly for me. I don't know. I understand only some phrases, some statement, but not all sentences.
The thing is, he used a lot of expressions, yeah?
Yeah.
Things like a bit of nip and tuck there, a bit of, yeah, and that's probably what's difficult as well, is that he uses a lot of expressions, and he does speak very quickly. Did anyone understand the gist of that? Could anyone summarize what he was saying? To be honest, I couldn't. I wasn't paying attention. No, I was. Okay, yeah, please, someone.
You have to improve. I mean, the new system of education must be based on mathematics skills, and also designing, and also to improve your English and to be able to speak like the Shakespearean period, and also to yes, that's all what I got, what I understand from his speech.
Yeah, the main thing, also the thing that he was talking about is putting more emphasis on British history, which we don't learn so much about really at school, I'd say. Yeah, so we know basic stuff, but we don't really learn much about British history, I'd say, really. So they're saying put more emphasis so the students understand, you know, our mentality, why we do things like that, right? So I don't know what it's like in your country if you put a lot of emphasis, if you learn about your history. I'm not sure, right? So Alberto, no one liked history classes at school. Well, when I say no one liked, the way they were taught really is quite boring. What about you? Did you learn about Spanish history, and did you like history classes, Alberto?
I like history, but education in Spain is not good. It's not well established, and then you can be taught in history for a period of time, but the next year you can be teach about another time who is not linked with the last year, and then you don't have an idea, a good idea about the history, because you have some pieces of history. It could be said, and then most of my friends, most of the people I talk about history think that history is boring. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I like it so much.
yeah, no, I like it as well, but the way it was taught at school was dreadful, right? So, I actually I had one good
Perhaps
history teacher.
perhaps is the type of teaching it. Is not clear. The efforts, the ages are not clear, are not so clear. If
Okay,
you
but
study the 15th century, and then you study the Christianism, the ending of I don't know, another thing that is not linked with the things you studied before, you have a mess.
sure,
Yeah.
if there's no if it doesn't link and the students can't see a logic to it. I just remember, yeah, we did things like Henry VIII, yeah, King Henry VIII, and we had to say it together. We had to chant, "Divorce beheaded died, divorce beheaded survived." Ooh, and this like to learn who he killed, because Henry VIII like killed all his wives, and basically, you know, we had to learn who he killed and why he killed, stuff like this. But is it useful, right? So does it change anything? But yeah, okay. What would you say, Anne? Did you learn about history
History was the most
of Ukraine?
history of Ukraine, and the world history there was my favorite subject at school. I then took part in a special competition from history, and I passed exam or history exam to enter my university. So I really like it. And we have a very interesting problem now from history because we have two political power, and each of these have another opportunity about their history of 20th century, about the Second World War. And when one of the political power came to government, they write a new history book for school.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, and one political party writes about Second World War one day, and then another writes their opportunity. I think it's terrible but interesting.
Okay, so that's cool. What about the rest? Donato, Selma, and Vlad, I'll let you can choose if you want to say something about this. And do you think it's important to learn so much about your national history and to focus maybe more on your national history, so Italian history or Algerian history or something? Or should we learn more about maybe history of like the world? Because we do world history and stuff like the ancient Egyptians and things like this, but they're saying that now we should focus more on British history, what it means according to the politicians, whatever, to be British, stuff like this. Is that something that Italian students would benefit from, Donato, to learn what it's like to be Italian?
Okay, I don't know what happened in the other countries, but here I think that they give enough space for both top subjects in the sense that in Italy we studied like everybody everywhere in a chronological way, no?
Chronological
chronological order, and there is enough space for the national history, and I think that it's enough. It's enough here because Italy, for example, it doesn't have a story that could have the French Empire or the British
yeah, this is the thing,
Empire.
exactly the point, because as soon as you start talking about empires, it gets into very dodgy territory. You know, what do they teach? If on the one hand they've got to teach, you know, what happened, on the other hand, you know, if they're trying to teach students to be proud of their country, some of the stuff that happened during the empire is something that's really, really bad. So what do they say? Yeah, do they say, oh, by the way, the British employed lots of slaves from Africa and made them do all the work for no money, right? So is that something that they would miss out because they want people to be proud or something? So that's interesting. So you're saying in Italy you didn't have this thing, so maybe it's not so controversial, right? So you can talk about, I don't know, the Romans, but it's not something that would...
I think that we study the Roman history that is a lot of stuff, no?
Yeah.
And I remember that I couldn't memorize all the periods because it's crazy. The Roman Empire lasts a long period for centuries, and I can think, for example, how French or British do with Louis first, Louis second, Louis third, Louis.
Yeah, so we did like basic stuff on the Roman Empire and stuff, but yeah, I don't know how they're going to teach this because it is a very touchy topic. Things like learn about the British Empire, right? Because yeah, and especially all countries with an empire. I'm not sure about like Alberto, how it was taught with the Spanish Empire and stuff like this, right? So, but right, okay. And what else? So Selma noted that he also talked about what? So not only about history, about maths and stuff like that.
Okay, so for my country, we had studied history for long hours from the primary to to the to high school, and we were studying that. We were enjoying history classes because they were taking us to some educational trips, and we went to the museum. So that's why it was a good class. But when we reached the university level, we we studied about the British history and the War of Tudors and the War of Roses, and also about the Queen and the King and who cheated the others, the other one, and what did they have
those
for
kings.
breakfast. And yes, so we had a lot of details about them, and we weren't actually enjoying, so we were just studying to get the grade.
Sure.
Because a lot of information and a lot of numbers.
Yeah, that's the thing.
James the First, James the 10th.
And that's the thing. A lot of it is basically if you've got good memory, you can pass history. Yeah, in lots of cases, and they say this: if you've got bad memory, bad luck, because you've just got to remember the dates. So, modern history, yeah, and to learn about culture, I think would be more interesting. But Vlad, any last opinions on this before we go on?
About history.
About anything we've discussed so far.
I think the history is one of the most important subjects at school. And I think if you don't know your history, you will never be proud for your country.
Sure. So you're saying it's important for people to think positively about the country, yeah? So if you learn about Ukrainian history, you can be proud of what's done. But the point is, what about things that maybe are not so clean, right? So, okay, not just about the British Empire, but other things. I'm only saying this because I know a bit about our history, but there are some maybe things that people would not be proud of. Vlad, do you think it can actually be counterproductive if you learn about the bad stuff in your history? Do you think this will make people start to think, actually, I'm not so proud of being my nationality? And the government are trying to make us more aware, more patriotic, or whatever, but actually it has the opposite effect.
I don't. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult, right? So, but would you have been more proud of being Ukrainian if you had learned more of Ukrainian history and less about other parts of history?
I think so. If you get more information about your country, about their some great things which made in your country, you will get proud of your country.
Sure, makes sense. Right?
But actually, but for example, for me, in my honest opinion, if the history for me was just a very interesting subject, because I learned history at school, and it was the same like I was reading. So I yes, I was reading a very interesting book.
Yeah.
Because I was very interested on, for example, Roman Empire. It was very interesting for me to get knowledge about emperors in the Roman Empire, about the wars which made Roman Empire, and so on.
Yeah, so this is something that you can then pick up on later, and you can start reading about it in your own time and things. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, but to read actually what they're going to do. So you heard his speech. I don't know if you understood properly or whatever, but he's not popular purely because. Can I just show you his face? Yeah, then you'll understand. Sorry, I'm not being too mean about him, but as soon as you see his face, you'll understand why he's not a pleasant guy. He's not a nice guy, I would say. Okay. This is Michael Gove. I don't know, but it depends who you talk with. But one of the least popular politicians, I'd say. Yeah, so for a politician, even though politician's not popular, he's probably one of the least popular. But no, okay, so let's not talk about him. Who would like to read the next bit?
I.
Yes, please, Anne. Go for the next 2 paragraphs.
Okay. Could you show me?
Yeah, sure. So from engaging and tough.
Engaging and tough. The Rewrite National Curriculum sets out the framework for what children in England state schools should be taught between the ages of 5 and 14. However, academies, which are now a majority of secondary schools, will not be required to follow the curriculum.
Okay, good. So the rewritten national curriculum sets out the framework. What does this mean, framework?
To write it again.
The body.
Sorry, someone?
The body framework.
Yeah, the body of something. So the framework is like the plan, a bit like the curriculum. Yeah. So the framework of, the frame of something. Yeah. So it's the outline of something. So yeah, that's cool. The rewritten national curriculum, the curriculum that has been written again, sets out the framework. To set out. That's a phrasal verb. Another word, a synonym for this, to set out something.
Determine.
Determine, yeah, or to outline. Again, you could say outlines the plans, or shows the plans, demonstrates the plans, or determines the plans. Okay, sets out the framework for what children in England state schools should be taught between the ages of 5 and 14. However, academies, and this is something that may be this is something that's quite recent to the UK, is these kind of academies which are funded by the government, but the schools have individual responsibility for their accounts. So they can choose how much money they pay the teachers, or they can choose how much money they spend on sports equipment, yeah, away from the control of the government. But the only schools which can be academies are schools that have been rated as outstanding, meaning the best of the best schools. If they're not outstanding, then they cannot be academies, and the government must control all the finances, must control everything. But the academies get outlines, get some kind of framework from the government, but are free to employ who they want, pay what salaries they like, invest the money in whatever they think is best for their students, not on what the government think is the best. So my school as I left, turned into an academy, and now I think it's doing quite well, right? So they get to employ better teachers because they don't have to just pay what the government says to pay, right? So they can say, right, we'll invest more money in better teachers, we'll pay higher salaries, so they come to our school, things like that. So it's like trying to make it a private school, but still funded by the government. Okay, so do you have something like this in your country? So these academies are not private schools; they're free to go to. You don't have to pay to them to go to them, but they're run like they are private schools, and they can get investors. So businesses can invest in the schools to give them money and to maybe build things there. So it's run like a business, but the students don't have to pay and the parents don't have to pay. So it's like a mix between a private school and a state school. Have you heard of something like this before in your countries? Alberto?
Like schools given sorry.
Yeah, no, Salma, go for it. Yeah.
Go, Salma.
Salma, sorry?
Okay. Like schools teach extra courses in mathematics or in languages.
They can choose, yeah, they can choose exactly that. In my school, they specialised in performing arts, right? So they specialised in things like music, drama, things like art or dance. And some schools specialise in business, some schools specialise in... That's another thing.
Computing science.
Yeah, things like that.
Yes.
So the school are basically given, I don't know, £3,000 per year per child, and they can do what they like about it as long as they're fulfilling the curriculum, as long as they're ticking the boxes. Yeah, the children can do certain things set by the government. Okay, has anyone got this in their country? It's very unusual, I would say, I think, to make it kind of like a business, to make a school like a business. And companies can buy academies, right? So companies can set them up as businesses, get the money from the government, and run it like a business. They're saying that to make it more efficient, to make education more efficient and better, it should be in the hands of business rather than the government. But although that's a controversial issue as well, because as soon as people can make profit, then there could be corruption or exploitation, maybe. Okay, so any questions so far, or any comments? Let's go on. Yeah. Please, Alberto.
That academics, about the academics, they teach about one subject, not about all the subjects you have to. You can be you can be taught in a regular school.
You have to do. I'll show you. For example, my former school, and to give you an idea, so they basically they're like every other school, but they get individual responsibility for the finance. It's just to do with finance, but they have to do all the subjects like maths, English, everything. They have to follow the curriculum, but they have. For example, my school invested in tennis courts here, just in a picture. They said, right, we want our students to be able to play tennis. But the government before would have to approve this and say, oh, is it worth spending the money? But when you have an academy, so long as there's money, the school can say, yes, we'll buy tennis courts, or we will build for example, at my former school, there's like a theatre, right? So you can perform there and things like this. But that's not so easy if there is control by the government. Okay, this is purely free. It's a free school. You don't have to pay. It's just they have control over all their finances. The headmaster can choose which salaries to pay and stuff like that.
But do these academies receive any money from the state, from the government?
Yeah, it's all provided by the government. But before, the government would control how they spend this money. So I think in the UK. Per child, the school gets so if the school has 2,000 students per year, the school would receive. Okay, and before, if it's not an academy, the government would say you have to spend this much on that, you have to spend this much on the salaries, you have to spend this much there. But with an academy, the school just says, right, here's £600,000. You know the school better than we do. You decide what to do with the money. If that means you want to use the money on better teachers, do that. If that means you want to use a sports facility, do that. They're just saying, we don't want any control. We trust you. You're an outstanding school anyway. We will just give you the money. You decide.
And they don't have to keep in the curriculum.
Yeah, they have to follow the curriculum. They have to follow the curriculum. They just have to tick the boxes. But they can choose to teach other subjects if they want to, like give extra, I don't know, dance classes for girls or boys, whatever. But they have to tick all the boxes. The government set the standards. Say by 12 years old, all students in the UK, regardless of what school, must be able to do this. By the end of the 14th year or whatever, they must be able to do this. So it's still controlled. The education, the curriculum is controlled. The only difference is that the school have the money and they can do what they like with it. And that could be to make investments or whatever. But it is controlled still. The government would still inspect this to see what they're doing, because the problem is that this could lead to corruption, right? The headmaster could say, right, I know what I'll do. I'll double my salary. You understand?
Yes, teacher. We have a primary school here, and she has this system. Last day I went to that school so that to put my CV, and they found that there is no test, and the one who can decide about my future is the guardian of the school, not the headmaster. So they were looking just for experienced teacher. They don't matter if you know or you don't know. What matters is experience, so that they can gain a lot of money in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and this is the problem when you run them like businesses. Also, people think that like private schools in the UK are better, but actually a lot of the times the private schools hire teachers who have no experience or whatever. just because they need the staff. So they hire ones that maybe are not particularly good, but just pay a higher salary, and so they're saying with the quality do. But this is why the government say not every school can do this. You have to pass an inspection, several inspections. If you get rated out as outstanding, means the best of the best schools can then decide how they spend the money. If the management of the school has already been proven to run the school in a good way, but it pushes also the other schools to perform better, because all schools now want this system. They want to be academies, so that now they're trying to improve their standards so they get to be an outstanding school, so they get the money from the government and they can decide what to do with it. So please.
But teacher, the problem is within the parents. If you are going to put your kids in the private school, you have to attend the lessons and to know what is going on, not just to pay and just to show off with your with your friends that my son is going to private school. You have to attend the lessons to ask for the curriculum. What are you going to teach my kids? But here in my country, they just pay. They don't care.
And it's the same. Yeah, and it's the same in the UK. Is that in my town there's maybe 3 private schools and there's 1 state school. I went to the state school. My friends went to the state school. But the people who send their children to the private school, the competitor to our state school is a school, I won't say the name, but it's one of the cheapest ones. But they just send, and I've heard this opinion from some parents, they say, the only reason we send the students to this school is so they don't have to be friends with the people from the state school. Yeah. So in actual fact, our school was rated higher than this school. I won't mention the name, but the parents often say, right, we're going to spend £12,000 a year just so our children don't have to be friends with or to spend time with maybe the normal students, right? So there is a bit of snobbery around it. It's not always about getting the good education. They're like, oh, my children are rich, they should be with rich families or rich students. Maybe. Okay, so this is a dilemma anyway. We'll finish with this. It's about private schools and state schools, what you think about it. Anne, are private schools or private universities in your country necessarily better than state schools or state universities?
Actually, I don't know the situation about our private school, but I think our government don't trust the schools managers, and they control financial. Oh, sorry.
You could say dealing.
Spending.
Yeah,
spendings. Some spendings and all schools and university must get some license from government, from Minister of Education.
Yeah.
And so you can't open your private school in Ukraine without some special license. And I graduated from some private school, but I didn't know how part of private capital was in this school. I know that we had a lot of inspections from government, and my school get money from government, and I don't know what is the difference between private school and state school in Ukraine. I think only some names.
There's a thin line, you could say. There's a thin line, and you don't know. It's difficult to tell the difference sometimes.
Yeah.
Any more opinions on this? And I mean, Donato, what's it like in Italy with the private schools, the private universities? Are they necessarily better?
Are they necessarily better?
Better than the state schools, the government schools, or the government universities?
I think that there isn't a good connection between university and work in Italy, and it's here people are obliged to learn thousand million of things just the week before the exam in order to forget everything the next day or the same night.
Everything in because this happens all the time. They just try to learn the facts to pass the exam, not to get anything from it. Guys, the last point I want to make is what you think the future of education is going to be like, because things like, guys, I think verbaling, for example, is quite effective, so I'm not saying that because I work for verbaling or whatever, but this kind of online learning where you get to interact with people and stuff, do you think that it should be emphasized more in schools? So online learning, things like to do with learning languages. Alberto, could you compare your experiences in a language class at school with maybe online classes or just speaking classes? What do you think?
Well, firstly, the level of the teachers is higher here because they are native. That's important because the comprehension is better vintage here. Secondly, it's too difficult to teach 40 or 35 students when there are many of them who don't like study or who don't like the subject you study. I think here there are 8, 9 students who are interested.
Otherwise you wouldn't buy the tickets, right?
Subject, and that's a good difference. And well, the type of studying online is too smart for the student and for the teacher. You are in your house. You are
in my pajamas now. No.
Yeah. You put a picture about you, but you are.
I'm naked on the bed, so
you are
with the beer.
Bed. Drinking,
Okay, so you're saying it's quite effective for both, So it's very flexible as well, and I can choose the times, I can choose where I want to be, and for you can do the same. But I don't know what it's going to be like in the future, because some schools I've realised I've heard about that they're streaming things in, so not just they're hiring teachers, for example, in India who are very qualified maths teachers, whatever. They're putting them on a big projector and getting them to teach a class because maybe they can teach better, and also maybe more cost-effective, not so expensive. So I don't know if that's going to be changed. But anyway, guys, I've got to go to the next class, which is going to be about business English. So you're more than welcome to join in if you like. We're going to talk about CVs and what's the situation like in your countries to get a job? Because I read, for example, an article that maybe 2,000 people or something are applying for one job in the UK, and it's getting very competitive. And we're going to talk about what it's like in your countries and how it will change. So if you're interested, join me next. But for now, I've got to go. Take care and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.